Sir, you are on mute.
Okay, is this fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so in the last class we were discussing that the linear classification or the is like, it's basically a linear classifier is a structure like this: y hat equal to sine of w transpose x, where W transpose like W so in like any linear there is y equal to W transpose x. This can be called any kind of a like a linear equation or any kind of a linear structure. Now to make it into a linear classifier, we make it y hat equal to sine of W transpose x. Sine means like either like if W transpose x is positive, then sign of that will be +1, and else if W transpose x is negative, its sign will be -1. So y hat is basically just either +1 or -1. So when we are doing a binary classification, that is we are trying to classify two classes, we will identify one class as +1 and the other class as -1, irrespective of what the classes actually are. And so if the like if this is the criteria by which we check whether the classification is correct or not. So if one of them, if the so y is the true level and sign of W transpose x is the predicted level. So if y into W transpose x is positive, that means both y and W transpose x are positive, or both y and W transpose x are negative, which means that they are correctly the prediction is correct. And if it is but if it is negative, that means their signs are different, which means that there is a misclassification. So this mathematical formula helps us to understand whether the prediction we have made is correct or not wrong. So we can either, so the linear structure, we can either write it like this: y equal to W transpose x plus b, that is where b is a bias term. Or what we can do is we can write y equal to W transpose x, where x contains an extra element called 1. So x is the feature vector, d-dimensional feature vector, to which we add or augment this 1 here. And this w is the vector. So at w1 w up to wt, these are the coefficients of the different features, and b is simply the bias terms. So the vectors which were originally d-dimensional now become d plus 1 dimensional vectors. So both of these are, so in this case, both of these are d-dimensional vectors, but in this case they become d plus 1 dimensional because we absorb this bias term into w. So like if we expand this, we can write y hat is basically or we can write y is equal to w1 x1 plus w2 x2 all the way up to wd xd plus b. So this entire thing, this entire summation, it will be either positive or negative. I mean greater than equal to 0 or less than 0. If greater than or equal to 0, we will take its sign. I mean the prediction will just take its sign, which will be +1. And if it is negative, it will be -1. So this we can say is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so for this purpose, so that's the linear classifier. Now, given a data set, we want to find a linear classifier such that all the points belonging to one class are on one side and all the points of the other class go to the other side. So for this
Sir,
yes.
sir, we'll do that operation y into W transpose like on the training data set to verify whether they are correctly classified or not.
Yes, we'll do it on the training data set. I
Okay.
mean, the same thing we can do it. That is so. Yeah. So this part, this multiplication, we will do in during the training process. Correct. So the perceptron algorithm, the aim of the perceptron algorithm is to find any kind of a linear structure, or which you can call as a hyperplane. So if it is two-dimensional, then the linear structure is simply the straight line. if it is d equal to 3, if it is 3-dimensional, then it becomes a plane. And for higher dimensions, then we call it as the hyperplane. So this linear classifier can also be called as a hyperplane classifier. So basically our aim is to find any such hyperplane or linear classifier such that all the points belonging to one class are on one side and all the points belonging to the other class are on the other side. Now, whether such a plane or whether such a hyperplane actually exists or not, that depends on the dataset. There may be datasets on which it may not, such a structure may not be present. So like in the last class, we had seen some examples like this, for example. So here, as you can understand that no linear structure is present which can separate the two classes. See, in this case, like it can, like there are some small number of outliers, but apart from that, like there do exist linear classifiers. So, so whether this will work or not depends entirely on the data set. So the perceptron algorithm goes as follows. Like, so we initialize the W, the coefficient vector, to some value W naught, which may be the 0 vector or anything else also. Then what we do is we make a pass over all the points, all the n training examples. We take each of the training example, do the test which we discussed. So whenever this product is negative, as already discussed, that means that there is a misclassification. The predicted and the actual signs are not matching. So what we will do? So we will accordingly we will update the W vector in this way. W is equal to W plus Xi times Yi. So Yi is the actual level, which is either +1 or -1, and Xi is the vector, like D plus 1 dimensional vector. This you can like ignore. So since we are considering B to be part of W itself, so B does not have to be updated separately. So W is like the D plus 1 dimensional vector W, to that is added the D plus 1 dimensional vector X, but multiplied by the scalar term Y, which is either +1 or -1. So accordingly, W gets updated. Now with the updated W, we continue the same pass over all the data points, and whenever we see again any misclassification, again we update it. So this way we reach the end of all the n training examples. But then we again repeat from the beginning, repeat from the first example, another round of the same thing. And again, whenever we come across any misclassification, we just keep on updating W. So the whole thing goes on in loops until some kind of a stopping criteria is reached. So there are three possible stopping criteria that in a single pass, over all the n data points, all examples have been correctly classified. If that is the case, then we can understand that the W which we have found right now, the current estimate of W is indeed it's such a linear structure which places all the +1 points on one side and all the -1 points on the other side. Now, so if the data set is linearly separable, then sooner than later you will find such a W, and then all the examples will be correctly classified. But it may happen that the data set is not linearly separable. So in that case, you will have to find some kind of a approximate solution. So you'll have to stop at some point. So that might be like you may have some fixed number of iterations, let us say 100 or something like that, after which you just stop. So whatever is the current estimate of W, like even though it is not being able to correctly classify all the examples, you'll just stop there. Or say if you see that you have reached such a situation where on updating W, there does not seem to be any particular change. That is, let us say you have some W which you are calling as W old, and you are updating it in the following way. Where, like, let us say the ith example has been misclassified, so you update it according to the rule. But you find that the W new and W old are almost the same. That is, there is a very little difference between the two. So like so these are both d+1 dimensional vectors, and we know that between two like if we have two vectors, we can take their difference and then take the norm of it. Now, if that norm is less than some kind of a threshold, then we can just it basically means that those two vectors are very close to each other. So that in such a situation, we can understand that although the classification may not still be perfect, but changing W is anyway not going to help much. So you can just stop. But anyways, but the ideal situation is the first one where all the examples are correctly classified over a single pass. But then that will happen only if the data set is perfectly separate, is linearly separable. Now, the question might arise that why does it work? So the reason why it works is as follows. So suppose you have any example xi which is misclassified. That means what? That means like when you are dealing with the current estimate of W, let's call it as W old. So by definition, a misclassification means that this product is negative. Right, this you forget. So this will, like we already considered this test. So this means that they have different signs. So their product is negative. Now, since that is the case, so since a misclassification has happened, so according to the perceptron algorithm, whenever a misclassification happens, we update W. So we do that according to the following rule. Now, so we get a new value of W. So the question is, will the new value of W be able to correctly classify Xi? The old value failed, but what about the new value? So let us see what happens now. So Yi into W transpose new Xi. So this product, we have to see whether it is positive or negative. So now writing out W, but we know that W new is equal to W old plus Xi Yi. So I can just write it out in the following way, right? So like you can just like check the calculation here and you'll see that this indeed is the case. So there is Yi into W old plus Xi Yi transpose Xi. This is the W new. So what happens? We get Yi W old transpose Xi plus Yi square Xi transpose Xi. So Yi is either +1 or -1. So if you take Yi square, it's going to be 1 anyway. So this just goes away. So you are left with Yi W transpose old Xi plus Xi transpose Xi. This one you can ignore. So so then what now so if you look at this quantity is what initially turned out to be negative when you actually misclassified it. Now to that I am adding Xi transpose Xi. So Xi transpose Xi, as you can understand, so Xi is a feature vector. It's a d+1 dimensional vector. And you are doing Xi transpose Xi. That means you are basically taking the square of all the elements and adding them up. So that you like since the like you are like sum of squares, so all of them will have to be positive. So Xi transpose Xi will have to be a positive quantity. So this thing was negative and this thing is positive. So now what happens to this thing, the left hand side? So we cannot say for sure whether this will be positive or negative. It's possible that it will become positive. That is, this thing was initially negative. On adding this quantity, it's either it will become positive or it will still be negative, but it will be closer to 0 than what it initially was. So that means if it becomes positive, then of course that means that after making this update of W, then I have been able to correctly classify this point. So that's good. Even if it does not become positive, even if it becomes negative, as at least I have come closer to correctly predicting it. So either way, some improvement has happened. So that means whenever we see a misclassification, whenever we do this update, and this update is guaranteed to give us some kind of improvement, at least with respect to that data point. Now, it might happen that when we are improving with respect to one data point, we are actually going bad compared to other data points. That's possible. And it is because of this reason that we have to continue to do so many passes over the things, like over the data points. So why do we not stop after making a single pass over all the data points? That's because like whenever we are making a mistake, I am like updating W. So it's possible but when I am updating W, it's possible that that particular data point or that particular mistake has been rectified, but the points which I had seen earlier, it's possible that the new value of W will not be able to classify those correctly. So that's a problem. So that is why even after completing one pass over all the n data points, I again have to start a separate pass to see whether the points, the initial points, whether they are being correctly classified or not. If not, then we have to just keep on updating. So now so the question might arise that, okay, so whenever you are seeing a mistake, you are updating W, but how long will it go on? That is, how can we say that we will ever reach the correct solution? It's possible that you will just keep on changing W this way, that way, but whenever you like you rectify one mistake, a new mistake comes in. So why do you think this algorithm will work? So there are certain guarantees which basically says that like if the dataset is indeed separable, then after a finite number of steps or after a bounded number of steps, your a perceptron algorithm will indeed give you the right, will indeed converge, and it will give you a linear structure which separates the two classes. Now, that is the Bloch and Novikov's theorem, which basically tells you or gives you the guarantee of convergence of the of this perceptron algorithm. Now, it also tells you after how many steps it's going to converge. So to understand that, what you need to understand is the concept of margin or gamma. So okay, so to understand the concept of margin, let us take a very simple example. Let us say there are like a two-dimensional case. This is one data set. Let's call it as D1. This is another data set which we call as D2. Now, suppose I want to find a linear classifier in both the cases. That is a line which separates D1, which separates the two classes. I mean, there are two classes, cross and circle. So let us just say that cross means -1 and circle means +1. So I want to find a linear structure which separates the two classes in D1 and in D2. Now, in which case do you think it will be easier to find the linear structure?
Second one.
Second
why
one,
so?
D2.
D2.
And why so?
So because the line that separates x and zeros, we have more room for the change in its slope. So if we change the slope of the line in D1 it will tend to misclassify faster, but that is not the case in D2.
Correct. So what you are basically is what, like, I will just rephrase what you just said. There is in this case, like, there is actually very little room between the two classes, or very little margin between the two classes in case of D1, but in case of D2 there is a much larger margin. So now what do I mean by margin? So let's try to so margin is something which you define with respect to like a data set like this and a linear structure. So let us consider, say, this linear structure. So this is a line. This is a line. I mean, even let us say that this is called W1 transpose X is equal to 0. And let us consider, in this case, let us consider a line like this. The same line, you can say. Square it as W2 transpose X equal to 0. Now, if you see, like, so let us, from all the data points in D1, let us measure its distance from this line. So you can see that there are some points like this from which this distance is very less. In fact, this point almost sits on the line. That means its distance is almost 0. But in this case, if you find, like, if you see, even if you calculate all the distances, even the minimum distance is actually quite large. Like, maybe this is the minimum distance, or this, right? And these are actually significantly large compared to, say, this. So margin of a data set. So when I talk about margin of a data set, it basically means that the minimum orthogonal distance of the points in the data set to the given line. And we can actually define the margin separately for the two classes. So for one class, let us say for the class +1, which is the circles, let's define the margin as gamma of +1. So that is, from, if we will focus only on these points, and from each of these points we will drop the perpendicular to the line, and then I will measure the lengths of the perpendiculars, and the minimum such length I will denote as gamma of +1. So we can call it as the margin of +1 with respect to W1. Similarly, the gamma -1 also we can measure like this. So gamma -1 is the margin of the class -1 with respect to the line. So which will be this distance. And the total margin we can just define as gamma is equal to gamma 1 plus gamma -1. Now, you can see that like, in this case, both gamma +1 and gamma of -1 are very small. In fact, they are close to 0. And in this case, both are quite large. So we can say that basically this is a situation where the margin is small, and in this situation the margin is large. Now, this margin being small, its implication is that the number of lines which separates the two classes is much smaller in this case compared to this case. I mean, of course, the number of lines will probably be infinite anyway, because even if we part out W by some small amounts, it will continue to work. But but even then we can say that in this case, the set of lines, the set of classifiers which will be able to classify these two data, I mean the data set correctly, is a small subset of the set of such classifiers which will be able to classify in this case. Now, because that is the case, in case of perceptron algorithm, what we do, we start with an initial or arbitrary line, maybe this line or maybe that line, whatever. And then from this, we will have to converge to this line. So in this case, since the like the number of such lines, or if we say the cardinality of the set of such lines is very small, so finding a suitable one will take a long time. In this case, since that cardinality is much larger, then like wherever you start from, you will be able to reach it quicker. So intuitively, we can say that if margin is small, then perceptron algorithm will take longer. If margin is large, then perceptron algorithm will take a shorter time, or a smaller number of iterations. So this Bloch and Novikov's theorem is actually saying that it is the number of iterations needed by perceptron algorithms is inversely proportional to square of the margin of the data set. Okay. So how this exactly works, or whatever is the proof of the theorem, of course, we will not go into. Just remember this answer. Now, so what does the perceptron give us? The perceptron will give, like assuming that such a linear structure exists, then the perceptron will give us any such linear structure. Like in this case, for example, in this case, like there are multiple structures are possible. This is one possibility. This is another possibility. Let's call it as W3. This is a possibility. Let's call it as W4, and so on, right? So when we start the perceptron from any arbitrary value of W, we can reach any of these, or like any of the millions of other possibilities which I have not drawn here. It can give any of these answers. That is, it can give any of these hyperplanes. Each of these are able to correctly classify the data set. But the question is, are all of these equivalent? That is, like, can we say that all of them are equally good, or are there some hyperplanes which are better than the others in some sense? So let us try to then understand what we may mean by better and worse. Just a second. So this is one data set. Okay, so consider this classifier. W1, and consider this classifier W2. So between W1 and W2, which classifier will you prefer? See, both W1 and W2 are able
W2.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sir, am I audible?
Can you hear? Yeah, okay. So between W1 and W2, do you think both are equally are equivalent, or will you have some preference between these two?
W2 should be preferred, I think.
And why?
So because if we change the orientation of W1, say by some amount, then there will be misclassification. So that will not be the case for W2. So that's why I prefer W2.
Yeah, okay. So rather than saying that if we change the orientation of W1, we can say it in a slightly different way. So these points which we are seeing, these are actually measurements. So if a measurement of, let us say, like for this point, it is lying almost on W1. So if this measurement changes a little bit, or if there is a slight error in the measurement, or let us say in the testing sample, there is one point like this, say like this, which is close enough to this one, but on this side, then you can see that it is going to be classified as a circle. Right, so similarly, the similar problem here also. This circle, I mean, if there is a some small measurement error or something like that, then this circle can easily come on this side of the line and it can get misclassified. But in this case, there is no such risk, as all the points are like at a sufficient distance from the line, right? So once again, as you can understand, that this is the story of the margin, the concept of margin which we just mentioned. So in this case, in the first case, the margin was very less. Remember, the margin is defined with respect, we define whenever we are talking about a margin, it involves a data set as well as a line. We cannot say a margin of a data set, nor can we say margin of a classifier. We need both the things together. So when we are considering W1, its margin with respect to the data set is very low. In fact, the margin with respect to the circles is also very low, and with respect to the crosses also, the margin is very low. But if you consider W2, its margin with respect to both classes is quite high. So we will, like by this logic, we will go for that kind of classifier or that kind of linear structure or hyperplane, which is capable of giving me the maximum margin. So that is what we call as the max margin classifier. I mean, perceptron is saying that it is enough if the linear structure is able to classify all the training examples correctly. That is, all the training examples of class 1 will be on one side, all the training examples of class -1 will be on the other side. In the second case, I am saying that is of course necessary. I mean, that's the mandatory criteria, but that's still not enough. I also want such a classifier for which the margin with respect to the negative and the positive classes will have to be maximum. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, we found these separating hyperplanes using regression algorithms as well. So how is perceptron better?
Using regression algorithms, this is not a regression problem at all. So the
No,
regression
I
is.
mean, we uh, uh, previously in the first module we found we used algorithms to find a linear non-linear boundary for classifying between two classes. So I was asking, how is this perceptron algorithm better?
Okay, I guess you are talking about something like logistic regression, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So right. So okay. So logistic regression will give you some kind of a decision boundary, and perceptron will also give you like a decision boundary. So I mean, so there is. It's not a. This is not to say that perceptron is better than that or anything like that. So so perceptron is like in fact perceptron, we can say it's a first step towards like a more advanced set of or a more advanced class of classifiers. So the logistic regression classifiers is actually slightly more sophisticated than the perceptron classifier. I mean, because in this case you are just drawing a hyperplane. In case of logistic regression, you can actually get a more complex decision boundary along with the class probabilities. That way, a logistic regression is a stronger model. But perceptrons, the good thing about perceptron is that it is like it is straightforward. The algorithm is very straightforward, unlike logistic regression, where like calculate the W, you have to like do the gradient descent kind of thing, right? You have to define the loss function, you get to calculate its gradients and then do the descent on that till you reach W. In this case, like the update, there is no such complicated loss function like that. It's like the update rule is very simple. Whenever you get W, you just do this. But anyway, that is not the main thing. The thing is that this perceptron is basically the stepping stone towards a more complex algorithms, which is what we are going to start now, the max margin classifier. Now, yes.
Sir, so in the case of max margin classifier, we always get the same line, same hyperplane. Whereas in the case of perceptron, we may get different hyperplanes.
So even in the case of max margin classifier, it may be possible that in some situations that there may be multiple lines or multiple hyperplanes which have equally large margin from both the classifiers. But in general, it has, or in most, like we can expect it to have a unique solution. But yes, in case of perceptron, it can give you any, like it can convert at any point. There is no guarantee about where it will converge. So now let us try to understand what this max margin classifier. So as I like in case of max margin classifier, as the name suggests, we are trying to maximize the margin. That is, we are trying to find such a W for which the that is, whenever we have W and we have the D plus 1. D plus 1 means only the positive points, only those points in the data set which have the level plus 1. So corresponding to them, I have a margin gamma 1. And similarly, I have the the minus 1 class, and that same W, its margin with respect to them is gamma 2. So then what I want is, I want to find such a W for which this gamma 1 plus gamma 2 will be as large as possible, will have to be maximized. Okay. So so now let us look at this example. So let us say that these green points, we will just randomly call them as plus 1, and these red points will randomly call as minus 1. And let us say that like we have like this is any W which separates the two classes. Now, so whenever you have a W like this, parallel to that W, we can have one line like this, which is whose margin with respect to the positive classes is 0. Okay, so what do I mean by that? That means the minimum distance of the green points from that line is 0, which means that there has to be at least one green point which is sitting on that line. So this point. So this line, we will call it as the marginal classifier of the green points. So note that there can be multiple marginal classifiers. This one is a marginal classifier. If you draw a line like this, that will also be a marginal classifier, and so on. If you like it may be possible to find other marginal classifiers also. But as of now, given a W, we are we will consider only those lines which are parallel to W. Now, if you similarly, if you consider the red points, you will have like another line parallel to W, which is called as which is like marginal. That means at least one red point or minus 1 point must be sitting on it. So these two things we will call as the marginal classifiers. So let us call these as, we can call it them as YW plus, and we can call this as W minus. Okay, and then we can find a like a W which is like just exactly parallel, like halfway between the two things. So we can define W as half of W plus and W minus. So note that W plus and W minus, all of them are parallel to each other. W plus passes through one like at least one green point, and W minus passes through at least one red point, and W passes exactly midway between them. Also note that W plus, W minus and W, all three of them are actually valid classifiers. That is, like W plus, it is able to classify all the points correctly. W minus also is able to classify all points correctly, except that there in case of W plus, there is one point which is sitting right on one green point which is sitting right on it, and this in case of this thing, like there is another red point which is sitting right on it. So so regarding these points, we will have to say that there is a tie. That is like we were saying earlier that sign, we are talking about this thing, sign of W transpose X. This is the way we are like we were predicting earlier. So if W, like if you consider W equal to W plus, for these points, we can say that W plus transpose X is greater than 0, and for all these points W plus transpose X is less than 0. But for this point it is equal to 0. Similarly, for these for all these points W minus X, W minus transpose X is less than 0. For these points W minus transpose X is greater than 0, and for these points it is equal to 0. So for those points which are equal to 0, by by definition of the sign function, we call their sign as +1, but in reality it's like they are sitting on the border line. We can consider them either on this side or on that side. Now so like what so we can all so what we can now do is we can again, the b's you can just ignore because we have decided to incorporate the b's inside the w's. Just forget this. So so now what we can do is from like we can basically calculate the margin. That is the margin so the what is the margin? The margin in this case is nothing but the distance between these two lines. So these are like we have three parallel lines. So this one is basically the gamma 1, that is the margin of the positive points, and this one is gamma minus 1, but that is the distance of the negative points. And so like you can also understand that this gamma plus 1 is nothing but the perpendicular distance of this point to W, and gamma minus 1 is the perpendicular distance from this point or this point to W. Now we know that in like while studying coordinate geometry, we know that like these have a there is a particular formula for calculating the distance from one point to the line. So now let us further make one more assumption. Let us say that this line, which this marginal classifier W plus, let us say that its equation is W transpose X plus B. Sorry, W transpose X plus 1 is equal to 0. Sorry, let me write, that's wrong. Let me write it correctly. So for this one, the equation of this line is W transpose X equal to 0. Right? Now this one, which is W plus, I will write it that its equation is W transpose X equal to 1, and this one is W transpose X is equal to -1. Now, how did that happen? I mean, like here, I did not say anything like that. I just said that there are like these are parallel lines. I only said that W is one line. Parallel to that, I have drawn the marginal classifier and on this side, and I have drawn a marginal classifier on this side. So this one I was calling as W plus, and this one I am calling as W minus. Now I am making. I mean, it's not an important assumption, but just for doing the subsequent mathematics, it will become easier if we make an assumption that the equation of this line is W transpose X equal to 1 and this one is W transpose X equal to minus 1. Now, if this for a particular data set, this may not happen, but we can always like do some kind of a scaling on the values of the features so that this happens. That is to say, suppose the points are as the green points are like this and the red points are say like this. That is so in that case, the difference or the distance between the two classifiers, W plus 1 on this side, this is W plus and the W minus on this side. So it's possible that their distance is not 2 as is implied in this case, but it's something much smaller because these points are very close to each other. So we can always scale these feature values by some by a factor so that they become appropriate like proportionately far apart from each other in the feature space, and their distance actually becomes 1. Now, this is not a very important thing. The reason why we take this is just to have some make the subsequent calculations look a bit simpler, but otherwise it's not a very important thing to make the transformation. Let us just make this assumption that this marginal classifier, its equation is W transpose X equal to 1. And this marginal classifier, its equation is W transpose X equal to minus 1. And the actual classifier lying in the middle is W transpose X equal to 0. Okay. So as now, but note that I do not know W as of now. I do not know what is the actual numerical value of W. I am just, what I will try to do is, I will try to find such a W for which the margin is going to be maximized. Now, what is the margin? Now the margin, as you can understand, is in this case is like so applying for the formula for the difference or the distance between two parallel lines is just becomes 1 by W. Where W is basically the L2 norm of this thing, right? The line. So if this line, like if it is a two-dimensional system and this line is A1 x1 plus A2 x2 plus B equal to 0. If this was the line, then your this L2 norm would have been root over A1 square plus A2 square. Okay, so this follows from the standard formula of coordinate geometry, and so now you can understand that this margin, I mean, after doing this transformation of plus 1 or minus 1, which was not really anything important, so we can understand that this margin, which we are calling as gamma plus, is equal to 1 by the L2 norm of W. Similarly, the margin on this side, which we are calling as gamma minus, that is also equal to the same thing, 1 by the L2 norm of gamma. Okay, and so both the margins are now equal. In fact, it has to be like that because that is how I chose W. I just took two parallel marginal classifiers of the two data sets and I imagined W to be exactly halfway between them. Right. So that means what? That means gamma plus, I have got an expression for gamma plus, I have got an expression for gamma minus. Now what I need to do is I need to choose W in such a way that this gamma plus and gamma minus is maximized, because that is what I want to do, max margin classification. So the gamma 1 plus gamma 2 obviously is equal to 2 by the L2 norm of gamma, sorry, W. So this is the thing that has to be maximized. So what I need to do is to find a W, arg max over W, right? This is this is what I want to do. This is the max margin formulation. Now, this problem by itself, so to do this, there are of course optimization algorithms which have like gradient descent and things like that, which you have already studied. And it may also be under certain circumstances, if this function is good enough, we may also be able to solve it analytically by taking its derivative, etc. So what we will do is, but right now this is an inverse L2 norm. That is, it is some a term like this. Right, so this is a rather clumsy expression. So what we will do is that instead of maximizing this quantity, I will minimize its reciprocal. That is, I will write arg min right, and to make it even better, I will actually put a square on top of it. So I mean, this putting a square on top of it actually has no impact apart from making the problem mathematically a little bit tractable. That is, like when you are considering just the L2 norm, it still has a root over it. So I mean, that is, if you want to do a derivative, that is trying to do the derivative of root x with respect to x is always I mean, it's not a very nice thing to handle. So what you will do is, instead of taking the root over, you will just take the square of this thing. The results are not going to change. So your max margin formulation has now become like this. You have to find that W, forget the B, for which this quantity is minimized. I mean, either this quantity is maximized or analogously this quantity is minimized. But that's not all. I also have to qualify with the fact that along with it, all the data points should be correctly classified. That is, data points from all the classes. So I will have this constraint also. Now, why am I writing +1? So like normally it should be enough if I am able to, like, if this is greater than equal to 0, right? Because that's the definition of correct classification which I had considered, right? We were usually saying yi times xi greater than 0 means correct classification. But now I am saying is greater than equal to 1. Why? That is because I am talking about that is, I want not only W should be able to correctly classify these points, but the marginal classifiers I mean W plus and W minus, these also should be able to classify all the points correctly. So the equation for this line W plus is of course W transpose X equal to 1, and for these points for this marginal classifier, its equation is W transpose X equal to -1. So for these to work, what I really want is that y into W transpose X -1 should be greater than 0. And for this to work, I want y into W transpose X plus 1 should also be greater than 0, right? For all like X. Now, if you take both of these two things simultaneously, that is, on one hand, I want y into W transpose X -1 greater than 0 for all X. And I also want y into W transpose X plus 1 not negative, greater than 0 for all X, right? So, so to express both of these things concisely, like I leave it as an exercise for you to check that what I really want is y times w transpose x should be greater than equal to 1. If this happens, that means both the positive and the negative linear marginal classifiers will be able to classify all the points correctly. Okay, so this is the max margin formulation, which has to be solved using a optimization problem, which we will discuss in tomorrow morning's class. Okay, so fine. So we'll continue this discussion tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.